Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Why is this topic of such great importance? Well, number one, because today there are so many folks who are teaching and who believe that the Old Testament has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. That's right, there are folks today that say there is not a single reference to Jesus Christ in the New Testament in the Old Testament. So, therefore, it's needful for us to look into the Old Testament to see if we find Jesus Christ in the Old Testament so that we can better understand the Bible as a whole and so that we can better understand God's eternal purpose for mankind. Let's first note what Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 15. And that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Jesus Christ. See, Timothy was brought up learning the Old Testament scripture. See, even when he was a child, he was being trained and brought up in the law of Moses, in the Old Testament. Now, historical evidence shows that oftentimes Jewish boys began studying the Old Testament when they were about 5 years old. And so Timothy would have been in line with this type of historical documentation. Likewise, it's interesting that Paul is telling Timothy that these Old Testament scriptures are going to bring wisdom unto salvation through Jesus Christ. Notice that he does not say the Old Testament brings salvation. Rather, it brings forth wisdom unto salvation. It teaches us, the reader, the studier, the student of the Old Testament, that we need Jesus Christ for salvation. Let's think about what Jesus said as Luke records in Luke chapter 24 and verse 44. Jesus says, These are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms, concerning me. See, the whole Old Testament is covered there. We see Jesus very, very plainly stating that within the law of Moses, within the prophets, and within the Psalms, Jesus was prophesied about. Jesus was being looked toward through those scriptures. And so we can see very plainly that the Old Testament is filled with Jesus Christ. And that those scriptures can make us wise unto salvation. And so it's needful for us to study this topic because of the misrepresentations and false teachings that are out there concerning the Old Testament and its purpose. And likewise, so that we can better understand how much we need Jesus Christ based upon all those prophecies and all the scriptures that were recorded and given to us in the Old Testament. I look forward to this study, and I hope you do as well.